What is going on, guys? It is Courtney and I'm back with a new video. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a Kanye West type beat using track 1 by Native Instruments. They sent me a copy of track 1 and I've been playing around with it and checking it out, and I came up with this beat using it. So before we get into track 1, let me play you the beat. Definitely a beat that you could hear on Yay for sure. I feel like we nailed that one. However, let's talk about track 1. So right now I have track 1 pulled up in Reactor, which is a plugin from Native Instruments as well. The first thing that I did was I went through some of these presets that they had, and I went to the hip hop and downbeat section, and I went through a few of them, at least 13 of them, to get to the one that I wanted, which is Trippy Kicker. And the way that it sounded before I did anything to it, it didn't really match the key of my project, so I had to go in and change that, as well as the timing so that it would play at the same tempo as my project. When you pull up track 1, it's going to be blank in this section, but to change the tuning, you just click on it, and you can change the root right here, and you can change the scale that it's in. And since my beat is in E minor, that is why I changed it to that, as well as the timing, which it was originally around like 120 or so, 130 maybe, I can't remember exactly, but I changed it to 116 to match my project tempo, as well as syncing it with the host tempo of Logic. From there, I changed the volume of the kick by clicking this master section, and then you can raise and lower the volume with this little fader right here. So when you hear track 1 in this section before it goes to this break right here, it's really just only the bass, because I have the kick at such a low volume because I already had a kick in my project. But for this second part, for the break, I have the kick and bass, but I also added another layer of bass just to bring out the harmonics of the bass. The way that track 1 works is it's a sequencer, so you're not going to be able to play it the same way that you do a normal plugin, say for example like Machine, where you can use your keyboard to play out patterns. What you're going to do is you're going to click in these patterns, and depending on how you drag this up is what the velocity will be. And to show you what I mean, here's an example. So as you can see, that first one was a little bit lower than the second time around. To be able to edit the bass, you just click over here and select it, and then you can do the exact same thing with the sequencer. And basically everything else in this plugin is sound manipulation, but I want to talk about one thing that I think will be beneficial to people who are using it in a digital audio workstation, and that is to click this little tape reel, and that way we can record our pattern and then drag it into our DAW. First, let me hit record, and let's hit play as well and play on our DAW. Now we can stop, and now to drag that pattern out, you just click these little 4 arrows and just drag it into your DAW and now you have your pattern. As you can see, you can make some really cool sounds with this plugin. It is specifically designed for kick and bass. However, you can create loads of different sounds using this plugin. Before we wrap up this video, let me break down how I made this beat. The intro is just the main melody but reversed, and the way that I did that was I just duplicated this main melody section and then clicked on it, and then if you hit more on your Logic Pro, you can just hit reverse and it will reverse that single audio file. It won't reverse all of these that are in that track, which is super handy because you don't have to create duplicate tracks for that. So let me play you those two melodies, reversed and then the normal way. Now moving on to the counter melody. It was basically a percussive hit that I played as a melody, and I took the attack up a little bit on the envelope and I came up with this. Now for the drums, I like to layer my snares and my hi-hats a lot. So as you can see, there are 2 snares and there are essentially 4 hi-hats. So let me just play you the drums and then I'll break down how I did the little hi-hat rolls and some of the snare rolls. For this first hi-hat, it's just a basic pattern, but I offset my hi-hats so that they sound more humanized and they don't feel like they're in the box, like it actually sounds like a person is playing a hi-hat. And for the second hi-hat, you'll see that they're just one note. However, it's actually playing a hi-hat roll. I added an ARP to the MIDI effects section on this track, and I basically just turned the rate up to 132. That way it has that fast roll. You will also see that I have some pitch automation, and that's what makes it sound like it's going up or down the scale. From there, I move on to the second hi-hat rolls, but you'll see that I have an arpeggiator on that track as well. However, its rate is at 1/8 triplet notes. And then this third hi-hat is basically played like an open hat. It's played on the second and the fourth. Moving on to everybody's favorite, the 808. Did on that was add a compressor. Moving on to the stab, which is essentially just a chord that I played to give it some more texture and a little bit more ambience. And what I did with that was I added some automation to it to kind of give it more atmosphere. Moving on to this little bell that I played on the B section of this beat. There are parts in that melody that sound off, but I like the way that it sounds. Not everything has to be right on the grid, and I like that. From there, it's the track 1 bass, which sounds like this. As you can see, no kick drum in that section. However, in the breakdown, there is a kick with it. And you'll see that I have some percussive hits and some chants just to break up the monotony of the beat. I don't want it to sound overly complicated, but I also don't want it to sound really, really bare either. But that is all I have for you guys today. I really appreciate the people over at Native Instruments who sent me track 1. It is a cool instrument. I really like the way that you can manipulate your sounds in it and create new things using even the presets in there, which is really, really cool. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button as well as that little bell so you get a notification every single time I post. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and on Twitter because it's easier for me to answer questions over there. And I drop producer tips on my Twitter that you probably would want to know, or maybe you don't, I don't know. Only one way to find out though, is if you check it out. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.